As we've been hearing, President Trump has said the US is prepared to take action against North Korea, whether or not it gets help from China. Well, let's speak to Professor Shaun Breslin, who's an expert in politics and international studies at the University of Warwick. And bearing in mind, we just had a visit from Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, last month to China, saying that they have agreed that they will work together in working against all the nuclear ambitions of North Korea. Why would President Trump have the need to come out with such strong rhetoric?
I think it's a build-up to the meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping that we're going to see in Florida. I think he thinks this is probably a good way of setting the agenda on America's terms. But I can't see it playing very well in Beijing, where they're more interested in having harmony and win-win collaborations and discussions in these summits. So I think it's going to play quite badly in Beijing.
I mean, what exactly do you think Donald Trump can do here? I mean, he has said, they're going to be firm, they're going to be tough on North Korea, potentially tough on China if they need to be, but not so much talk in terms of pulling meat to the bones, explaining what exactly he will do.
No, but I think that's part of the way that he operates. It's an attempt to try and set an agenda, to try and put pressure on the Chinese with nothing particularly specific in place. I mean, China, I think, has faced some difficulties in knowing how to deal with Trump. Originally, they were a bit concerned that he might abandon the one China policy and recognise Taiwan. Then those nerves were calmed when he said, no, we're going to stick to the one China policy. But just when things seem to be on a more even footing, this throws another spanner in the works.
That's right. And looking at how his attitude towards North Korea has been very, very strong even before he became president. But what do you think he could actually do here? All the things that previous presidents, if you look at Barack Obama and the number of nuclear weapons tests carried out under him, and even as Rex Tillerson was visiting China last month, North Korea carried out even more tests. I mean, what exactly do you think what can be done to stop North Korea and their nuclear ambitions?
Well, one thing that can be done is trying to put pressure on China to really implement very firm policies against North Korea. Chinese have said that they're going to cut coal imports, for example, but I'm sure the Americans want them to do more than that. Ultimately, if it comes down to it, they're probably talking about military strikes.
And if that's the case, what could happen then?
Well, then we're in a world of unknowns. I mean, the Chinese are already very concerned about the way in which South Korea has taken the American defense systems. And at the moment, in fact, there's a Chinese boycott of South Korean goods because of the way that South Korean defense systems targeting North Korea are seen as also damaging Chinese interests. So even now we've got tension, and that's before anybody's filed a real shot in anger. So
you really think military action could be a viable response?
I don't think it is. I think it's bluster. I think it's an attempt to set a political agenda. But if he's really going to follow it through, I'm not sure where he goes other than the military action. But let's just hope that this is an attempt to set an agenda, to push the Chinese to doing more, and then we'll see things happening in Florida that will lead to them shaking hands and saying they've come to a win-win solution.
OK, well, looking ahead to that meeting with the Chinese president, that's going to be taking place later on this week, Wednesday or Thursday, at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago golf resort. Seems to be commonplace for him to carry out his presidential meetings. What are we expecting there? What sort of outcome do you think could happen?
Well, there are both security and economic issues that the Chinese are very concerned about. I mean, Peter Navarro, who is now running the president's Strategic Trade Council, wrote a book called Death by China. And there is considerable concern in China that we're going to see a new era of tariff placed on Chinese exports. And that's one thing I think that Xi Jinping will want to offset. Also, I think they'll want to come out with some agreement of doing something to do with the six-party talks to assuage concern about North Korea. So I think we'll see attempts to show that these two great powers are two great powers that can try and settle their differences and also deal with some of the global issues in a calm way.
Well, we'll soon be finding out exactly how this long-awaited meeting between the two presidents is going to pan out, taking place later on this week. But Professor Shaun Breslin speaking to us from Warwick University, thanks so much.
Thank you.